very old. Medical insurance is a product of the Depression and the Second World War. Going in the last half of the Depression, the state of Texas offered some of their teachers health insurance in lieu of pay raises. During the Second World War, when there was a price freeze on, all these women working in factories were offered health insurance in lieu of pay raises. And when their husbands came home, they thought that was a darn good idea, and the industry was born. So it's not that we were born with health insurance in America. It's a Johnny-come-lately, and it's in transition as well. Over the last 50 years, we have seen a marked change in technology and economics, and these will force a change in our delivery system. Congress cannot turn their back totally on the changes in technology, the computer chip, the laser, fiber optics, the new Teflon, new materials, pacemakers. It's almost going on astronomically. Medical knowledge in the government in 2.5 years. Congress is not going to slow that down. And it will force more economic changes in our system, whether they like it or not. Healthcare has never fit a free market model. Never.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to take a poll here. How many of you have had surgery in the last 5 years? Okay. Quite a few. Okay, I want to know, how many of you shopped around for the cheapest doctor, the cheapest hospital, the cheapest surgeon? No one? Have you ever had to call an ambulance? Did you shop around to see which is the cheapest ambulance service in town? No one. The currency of medicine is not dollars. It's accessibility and quality. And that's what it is. So you can't take a market system based on dollar bills and transfer it over to medicine. It doesn't work. There was a famous economist, his name was Kenneth Arrow. He got a Nobel Prize in 1971 for his modeling of industries. But Kenneth Arrow, 1963, the year before Medicare, he was not involved in healthcare at all. He wrote a seminal paper and listed all the reasons why healthcare would never fit a free market model. It was true in 1963, it's true today. For all of your friends who say, we just need to let the free market dictate it, that is bull. High-risk pools have been tried before and they're woefully inadequate. That comes from the Kaiser Family Foundation, which is one of the most reputable researchers in healthcare. And we mentioned eldercare. Our current delivery system, when compared to the rest of the world, is fragmented and inefficient when compared to all other countries. We can complain about the Canadian healthcare system and how we know the stories that thousands are flocking to the United States every year for healthcare. That's mythology. Less than 2 to 3% of the Canadians ever have their health care in America, and most of those are snowbirds that are in Florida during the winter. If you look at what percentage of Canadians are happy with their health care system, you're well into the 90th percentile. You ask the same in America, and you have less than 65% are happy with where we're at now. So we do have a fragmented, inefficient system. I'm always kind of laugh when I think of Taiwan. Taiwan had a system identical to us. They were the last country to split to their current system, which is a Medicare for all system in 1995. And when the head of the country was asked, well, how did you decide what you wanted? He said, well, we looked at America and Canada, and from those two, we could decide what we didn't want. Yeah, healthcare in Taiwan, 6.3% of their gross domestic product. The time that it takes to see a specialist, it's down to 24 hours. Seeing your primary care doctor, 2 hours. It's an amazing system, and it does well. It's efficient and it's effective. And you're scratching your head, they're doing it for 24 million people. Could we do it for 320 million people? We don't want socialized medicine in our country. We have heard that mantra since 1948. Who do you think invented the term socialized medicine? The American Medical Association did in 1948. And they have preached it ever since. And who was the spokesperson they hired that year to preach it? Ronald Reagan. That's correct. And he preached it. He preached it all the way up to 1976. And in 1976, after he didn't get the nomination, his advisor said, wait a minute, it looks like most Americans really like Medicare. Let's get off that right now. And he did. Our whole model of healthcare has changed. Growing up, I walked down the block with my pediatrician. I got my health care and walked home with my mother. I always wanted to be a Marcus Welby of this world. I wanted to have that relationship with people. And that's why I went into medicine. And when I started out in practice, I was a solo practitioner. But the world has changed a lot since that time. Because there's intervening forces that have evolved between you and your Marcus Welby. First of all, your Marcus Welby is now owned by a major corporation, maybe in partnership with other physicians, the hospital, or just a physician organization. They dictate how much he charges, who he sees, what his hours are, and how much time he spends with you. It's not all his choice. But you, on the other hand, you signed up for a PPO. And if he's not in your panel, well, then you've ditched him and gone to somebody else. And you're totally dependent upon your insurance company and PPO to dictate who you can go to, when you can go to, and how much is going to be paid. So it's both sides of the street have shown a marked change during the years. The only system in our America today that is truly cost-driven is Medicare. Medicare got that way because of one man, Ronald Reagan. When his administration took over, the question was, well, Medicare's going bankruptcy. What are we going to do about it? And he said, well, how do we pay them? Well, we just pay them their usual and customary fees. The doctors, yes. The hospitals, yes. Medical suppliers, yes. You mean we just pay them whatever they bill us? Yes. He said, that can't be. He said, we've got to have some value in what we're paying. So he put in what was called DRGs, diagnosis-related groups. And the hospitals yelled to high heavens, we're going into bankruptcy with this, because all they're going to pay us is what they think it's worth, plus 4% profit. So they account for our labor, quality, and whatnot, and then they pay us 4% more for depreciation. We may not make it. Well, what happened? The hospitals did make it, and they thrived. They cut their average stay of hospitalization down from over a week to just 1 to 2 days now. They did many other things that they should have done a long time earlier. And because they said, if you had your gallbladder out, it should cost the hospital $3,000 to take the gallbladder out, so we're going to pay you $3,000 plus 4%. And if you mess up and you have a lot of bad outcomes, that's on your plate, not mine. And boy, did that improve quality of care in America. Well, what about these physicians that are sending in ungodly bills? I'll pick on, I hope I don't have an ophthalmologist in this, but I'll pick on them. Come 1968, when cataract surgery really evolved, it was long and tedious surgery. And ophthalmologists were getting paid up to $2,200 for cataract. Technology and evolution, and by the 1980s and 90s, they could do 12 cataracts a morning. And they thought that God had meant for them to be paid $2,000 for cataract. And Reagan cut it down to $700. He says, we're going to pay you relative value. The skill, the time in training, the time that it takes to do it, we're going to factor all those things in and come up with a relative value number. And they did. And that cut down the big expenditures to physicians. Now, if you were a primary care physician, this was a real win-win thing. Because it was primarily the procedures that got cut back. The primary care physicians all ended up with pay rates. So, there is a model out there now for paying for what your value is. Currently, on your private insurers and others, it depends upon the relationship between your insurance company and the hospital. And if you do not have insurance, you're at the total mercy of the system. I've seen alcohol swab charges as high as $8 to be used before they draw blood on me. I recently went in and had routine blood panels, which I knew that probably cost the hospital $30, and they probably charged me $50 for. There was a mix-up on my Medicare, and so I got the full bill of $650.
Oh, yeah.
That is the common thing if you're the poor man walking off the street. So, the future of medicine, now Charles Carpenter, do you all know who he is? He's a commenter. He has a column in the Washington Post. He comments on Fox News. He's a psychiatrist. He's paralyzed from the neck down from a previous accident. He is very, very right-leaning. But he said the other day, he said the American public has accepted it. That within 6 years, we will probably go over to a single-payer system. And I agree with him 100%, because that could be the ultimate answer. We're not talking about socialized medicine. In Taiwan, all we were talking about there was socialized insurance. The country runs the insurance program. The doctors are still free to work for themselves or here when they want to. The hospitals are owned by private individuals, as is rehab and everyone else. That's what it is. It's a socialized health insurance. And I suspect we will see it in the not too distant future. Now, the Annals of Internal Medicine, a very reputable medical journal, stated in an article just 3 months ago that from their research, going to a national socialized insurance would save up to $450 billion a year, as opposed to the $112 billion that's going to be saved over 10 years in the next. You say, well, how can that be? Well, the thing we don't talk about is how much does it cost to administer healthcare and the cost. For Aetna to make a claim in 1910, it was somewhere around $29 per claim. Is what their share of it was. For Medicare, it was $5 a claim. So for the private insurers to do it, they're taking 5 times as much out of the system as Medicare is. Now, Medicare is administered by Blue Cross Blue Shield and others, but they have to do it on a competitive bidding contract. And somebody gets a bid for maybe Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico, and competitive bidding is what keeps costs down. So, at the end of this, a question that I've heard debated since my first day of medical school: is access to quality medical care a right, or is access to quality medical care a privilege? How many feel like it's a right? How many feel like it's a privilege? I think if you ask our senators, they all feel like it's a privilege. Tom Hogan definitely said that in his talk. Well, I'd probably come out and say it's neither. It's a moral obligation of a just and good society.
Yes.
So, basically in summary, I want to leave here today hoping you have a little bit of better understanding of why did we want Obamacare to begin with, both as a nation and as an individual. What is the Affordable Care Act and the American Health Care Act, or Trump Care? What's their differences? Who benefits and who does not? But where might we be headed in the future? Well, there was a very wise American, who's not on that slide, who said we hold these truths to be self-evident, but we all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Amongst these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we can have none of those without access to quality health care. Thank you.
Dr. Briggs.
Thank you, Dr. Riggs. Was that not amazing? Okay, just picking on. do we have any questions, for Dr.